Alright, so I'm sitting here out near the rocket mass heater, but that's actually not what I'm here to talk about. I am drinking a beer, but this is not a beer bait video, so if you're thinking there's going to be the I love beer punchline, it's not this video. By the way, I'm drinking Sam Adams Winter Lager. But I got the question the other day. Somebody asked me what my background in music exactly was. And there was a few stories I wanted to tell, so I guess I'll start at the beginning. I actually started by taking piano lessons. I can't remember the age, probably around 10, and I took that for, I think like 7 years I took piano lessons before I switched to guitar. But at first I didn't take lessons for guitar. What I used to do is my dad had an old acoustic out in our other garage, and I would sneak down there in the middle of the night and figure out how to play it. It was actually from when I was doing piano, I had a Tom Petty songbook of his greatest hits. And at the top, it said all the chords and had a little diagram for how to play each chord. So that's actually what I used to teach myself how to play chords. And once I was comfortable playing chords and switching between them, which is probably the hardest part, not just learning where your fingers go for the chords, but switching in between them fluidly. So after I got good and I was able to show my dad, hey, look, I can play I can do the rhythm for this song or that song. That's when I started to take lessons because I wanted to learn how to do lead guitar. I took guitar lessons for, I don't know, maybe 5 years, something like that. From actually a guy I think he still teaches there, in a musician's workshop. I think that's Manalapan. His name is Mike Newman. But he was a very talented guitarist, and I really liked him. I'll have to go visit him someday. But anyway, I started writing some of my own material, and it just sat for years and years and years. Never really did anything with it. I did a talent show. Well, I wasn't the contestant. It was actually a friend of mine in high school. We played Smoke on the Water. He played bass guitar, the guy who was actually, it was called Mr. Allentown, where they would auction off guys for charity. So I was just part of like the backup band, but and that was fun and all. It was okay, Smoke on the Water is such a standard tune that it's, a lot of people just roll their eyes. Wish I had a video of that, but after that, I didn't really play with anybody. I think the next shows I did were as the Marx Brothers, Hitman and the Marx Brothers, and that's with my dad. We were doing my dad's songs and covers. And the name the Marx Brothers actually came from after I learned how to play guitar pretty good. At the time, my older sister, was dating a guy named Mark Getchis. Don't know what happened to him. But he was a really good drummer, and we used to jam a lot. And I would have loved to start a band with him because he's probably one of the most natural drum players I ever played with. Just things came together so well. So that name, the Marx Brothers, just kind of stuck because his name is Mark Getchis. I thought he was probably going to be my brother, so that's kind of where that came in. Not M-A-R-K-X or M-A-R-X. M-A-R-K apostrophe S, Marx Brothers. So, we did shows with my dad singing and playing rhythm. I was on lead, and my brother-in-law Ryan was on drums, even though he's not really a drummer, And those were nightmares of shows because my dad's an enormously difficult musician to work with. But we got through it. And then anyway, after that kind of fizzled out, I put a profile on Bandmix. And this is really kind of what I wanted to get into. This is, I guess, my foray into playing semi-professionally. I put a profile on Bandmix, and eventually I got an email from a man named Brian Mowry, who was the drummer of a band called The Wag. The Wag was a four-piece band. Uh, Drums were Brian Mowry. Keyboardist was Alicia Van Sant. Bassist was Brian Austrine, and Alicia Van Sant and Brian Austrine were married. They were a married vegan couple. And the original guitarist was named Dan Corboy. So Dan had just left the band over creative differences, basically, and I guess the direction the band was going in. So he quit, and they were looking for a new guitarist. So Brian Mowry found me on Bandmix, and we started talking. He asked me if I wanted to audition. He sent me links to a couple of the songs that they had that they wanted me to learn, and then I was gonna go out to their place where they rehearsed, and I was gonna try out. So I went and I tried out, and everything went well. I definitely was a little bit more of a harder rock guitarist than their original guitarist. Their original guitarist is fantastic. But he was much more, I guess, technically skilled than I was. But I was able to play all the songs, you know. There was only one song they wanted me to learn note for note, and it was a song called Your Eyes. They wanted the solo to be exactly like it was on the record. So that's the only song I had to learn to do the solo for, note for note, and everything else. I did stuff that was close, but I kind of did it my own way. And they were fine with that. And there was one song I learned, actually. They gave me the title to a song, but it was actually very similar to the name of another song. I learned the wrong one. The song was called, what was the song called? Give me a second to think. I'm going through the lyrics in my head. I can't remember, but it was a song written by Dan Corboy. It was a song that really they didn't want to play because the old guitarist wrote it. But it was probably one of their best songs. Oh, Things You Call Your Own. That was a song. That's probably, I think, probably their best song. They have other songs that are really good, and some songs that I absolutely did not like to perform. But that one was really good, Things You Call Your Own. So the only time we ever played that was in rehearsal, and since Dan was the one that sung it, I thought that maybe that was like one of the ones they were going to have me sing. So I learned the lyrics and everything, and we did it, and it was really good. And then saw the band, they were giving looks at each other, and at the end of it, they said, you know, that's not the song we wanted to play, but, you know, we have a really good feeling about you. There's a couple other, we're not going to lie, there's a couple other people that we wanted to audition. So we're going to audition them, and we'll get back to you, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be you. And sure enough, it was a few days or weeks later that they called me and told me that they would like me to join the band. So the one that I guess recruited me, whatever you want to say, was Brian Mowry, the drummer. And we hit it off a lot because we had very similar tastes in music. But right as I was coming into the band, it was around this time of year, a little bit before. So they were gearing up to do Christmas shows a lot. And some of the first shows I did were like playing on the street for the holiday music festival that Red Bank, New Jersey does downtown. So those were like kind of the first shows, but I think the first show I ever did was at a place called Espresso Joe's in Keyport, New Jersey. I believe it's Keyport. I think the place shut down. I don't think it exists anymore. But they used to host a lot of acts, and this was all acoustic. The drummer used to play bongos in place, and so it was a lot of more acoustic-based stuff. Acoustic versions of all these songs, and a bunch of Christmas tunes as well. And I remember, I think that was my first gig, was at Espresso Joe's. And what I didn't know is that really who they wanted to replace Dan Corboy was a local musician in Freehold named Don Lee. Now, at that point, I had never met him, never heard of him. But they had told me that they asked him to join, but he didn't want to do it. So when we were going to the show, they told me Don Lee's playing there too, because it's a bunch of musicians are going up and playing like 3 songs or something like that. And they did not have anything nice to say about Don Lee. They said, oh, he's arrogant. He thinks that he's so good. I hate the way he sticks out his chin when he sings, because when he sings, he kind of does, he puts the microphone a little bit higher up, not like Lemmy high up where he's like literally shouting upwards, but he does kind of stick out his chin a little bit. Maybe it's because of the tension it puts on the vocal cords. Maybe that's just like the way he sings to get what, I don't really know, to tell you the truth. But anyway, those are the kind of things that they had to say about him. And, but it wasn't very nice. And when I met him, he was super sweet. He seems to be a very nice man to me. He asked me a lot of questions. You know, he seemed very interested and engaged. And I liked him. And I thought he had a good voice and he had a few good tunes of his own. So I didn't see what the WAG disliked about him so much, other than that maybe they felt slighted because he said no and didn't want to be in the band. So anyway, I was in the band for maybe about 2 years. And the bulk of that 2 years, we were doing mainly acoustic shows, which was a combination of covers and the WAG's original music. And these shows ran like 3 hours. So it was 3 hours worth of material. So I learned all these songs that they wanted to do. The most painful one was, it was a Moody Blues song called I Know You're Out There Somewhere. And I cannot fucking stand that song. But the keyboardist Alicia, she really, really liked the Moody Blues. So it's just one of the songs that we did. And I mean, it was fucking awful. Because it's one thing if like you don't like playing a song, but it's only like a minute long. We'll just blow through it, be professional about it, we'll get through it. But this song is no joke. It's like a 5-6 minute song. And it's boring as hell. And I remember one time we used to do a lot of shows at the bar in downtown Red Bank called the Downtown. I believe it was called the Downtown. And I remember this one night we were doing that particular song, and there was these 3 girls sitting at the bar that were literally looking at us and laughing. And I have to tell you, that's one of the most mortifying experiences, is when you're playing a song that you know isn't very good and nobody's gonna like, and people are literally laughing at you. But anyway, you know, you remain professional, and that was still one of the songs we used to do. We were doing, again, like I said, 3-hour acoustic shows. When we did electric shows, it was about 1 hour, and we would do only originals. Those ones were a lot of fun, and that's actually what I liked doing. And that's where me and the drummer, Brian Mowry, got along very well, because we thought that we should be doing more original music, and we shouldn't be doing these long 3-hour acoustic shows. We should be doing more electric shows, playing our own music. And here's the other thing. I did not make not 1 cent off of any of these shows. They were getting paid, and they were making not a crazy amount of money, but they were making money. But me at the time, I didn't have a job. So literally, I was dedicating all my time into learning these songs and making sure that I knew them well. So occasionally, the drummer, he would toss me like $20 or something, because he knew I needed to like pay for gas to get. Because they lived in like Middletown area, and I'm about over an hour away from there. So meeting up with them first, it was an hour to go there, and then wherever we had to go after that to do these shows. So I was spending a lot of money on gas and just guitar strings, you know. Every 2 or 3 shows, sometimes every show, I would break a string. And I would have to change it. I always had backup guitars, so I could just pick up a new guitar if a string broke. But, you know, guitar strings cost money. Gas costs money. And they said, oh, well, we're saving it because we're going to record a new album, and it's all going to go towards producing the new album. So, whatever. I guess you could say that they took advantage of me, but I let it happen. So I guess that part's on me. But uh, Brian Mallory, he understood what I was going through, so he would toss me cash on the side to help support me a little. So, getting back to not getting paid, when we used to do shows at places like the downtown, we were earning a little bit of money, but drinks and food were on the house. So, since I'm not really working and I'm making any money, hell yeah, I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to have a beer and a hamburger. And Brian Austrine, the bassist, and Alicia Van Zant, the keyboard player, they were a married vegan couple. They'd be looking at me like I shot somebody because I'm eating a cheeseburger. Well, I'm sorry that, you guys care so much that you're going to look down on me because I'm going to eat a free cheeseburger, but I'm hungry and I'm not working. The least I could do is get fed. And of course, Brian M. understood and was on my side with that whole thing. But this is where the differences started coming in. As I started getting more comfortable, there were certain songs I wanted to do. If we were going to do covers, there were certain songs I wanted to do. And 90% of the songs I would suggest, they would say things like, oh, I don't know if that's popular enough. And specifically, the keyboardist Alicia would say, that's a lot of work to learn that song. So I just don't want to put forth the effort to learn it. And that really ticked me off because it was just like, I just learned 3 hours worth of music just to be in this band, plus all your songs, plus all the Christmas music that we play at Christmas time. The least you could do is learn how to play 2 songs for me. So that never ended up happening. So most of the songs I wanted to do, we never ended up doing. And anyway, a lot of my friends, they were never able to come out to see the show, so I decided to do a show here, not in the garage, actually outside near my fire pit. I set up like a little stage area because I have like stage lights and smoke machines and like the whole thing. So I decided we were going to do a show here for my friends, an electric show. And everybody came. Brian, this was his first time really coming here. And he absolutely loved it here. And he was asking, do you mind if I come back like every weekend just to hang out? And of course I told him, yeah, you could come anytime you want. He was a real sweet man, Brian Mowry. And anyway, we did that show. And right after we finished our last song, it started pouring rain. So all my friends and all the band, we were all grabbing instruments and bringing them inside so they wouldn't get wet. And right as we got the last piece of equipment in, my dad noticed, what's wrong with Brian? Brian was laying face down on our porch, and we didn't know what was wrong with him. Long story short, he had a massive heart attack, and he died pretty much right there. So of course that was devastating for me because it was the first real like semi-professional band I had been in, and he was my friend. He was my buddy in the band. So him dying really, it took a lot out of me. So anyway, after that, they wanted to keep doing shows, but with no drummer. And I did maybe 1 or 2 shows, and then I just told them, look, I can't do this anymore without Brian. Because really, it wasn't very much fun. My buddy was Brian, and he was gone now, and I couldn't imagine doing shows without him. And then there was a tribute show that we were supposed to do for him. And I agreed to do that, but I wanted to play the drums, since I was capable of handling the songs. I thought it made sense because the old guitarist was going to come back and do guitar. So I figured, well, why should we compete for playing guitar? He's the guy that you wrote the songs with. Let him play guitar and I'll go to drums. No, they didn't want to do that. So long story short, I ended up leaving the band. and they kind of took that out on me. They were very not happy with me for, as they saw it, bailing on the band. But that's just not the way I saw it. The way I saw it was that my buddy was gone. He was one of the main integral parts of the band, and I just didn't want to do it anymore without him. So anyway, a few years go by, and they were doing these shows with no drummer, and they got somebody to fill in to play bongos on the acoustic shows. And now they do have a new drummer. I don't know who at the time originally they were using as a replacement guitarist. However, in its most current iteration, the WAG now plays with, going back to the earlier in the story, now plays with Don Lee. Don Lee finally agreed to be in the band, so now they tour with him, which I find very strange considering the things that they had to say about him before he agreed to be in the band. When he had refused, he was the worst guy ever. He was a scumbag for saying no. Now he's their boy. Fast forward to a couple days ago, and Don Lee is insanely liberal. And he was saying something to the effect of, no group in this country does violence against anybody else besides right-wingers are always attacking left-wingers. And I had to say, no, that's not true. Here are all these news articles, case after case after case after case of people getting sucker punched and beat up or whatever, for something as simple as wearing a MAGA hat, not necessarily even expressing an opinion, but just wearing a hat. So long story short, he didn't like that and he blocked me. And it's before I ever got to tell him, because, I figured why bring up old news. But Don, if you see this, I want you to know, the WAG did not have anything nice to say about you. I still think you're a nice guy. I'm sorry that you can't handle a differing opinion, even when it's backed up by facts. I'm sorry. I still think you're a nice guy. Maybe reconsider. Because I really don't have any problem with you. But that's beside the point. So anyway, now Don Lee is playing with the WAG, and that's when I kind of got into doing YouTube, and I started making cover videos, and then I started doing parodies and everything else. So I'm not, the parodies aren't going anywhere. I'm still going to do it, but I really want to start doing more original music. So look forward to that. Hopefully look forward to that. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you do too. But we'll see how it goes, and that's basically my background in music. Nothing spectacular, but the one semi-professional band I did play in was called the WAG. They still have a few. I still like the music despite the fact that, we didn't get along really. There's one song they had called Paper Cup, and it was insanely annoying, is all I'll have to say. And that was always the song that they would play to finish the show. And it was so embarrassing because it's like the last song you want to be something that's really going to stick in people's heads. You want it to be your best song. We're going out where the people walking away from the show are going to remember Paper Cup. And it's a terrible song. So things like that are why I left the band, because it was just, they were not heading in the right direction. I wanted to do stuff that was a little more hard-edged, and they were doing all of these ridiculous songs that sound like they were written for a failed children's TV show. That and like Barnyard Jamboree. If you go and look up these songs, you'll see what I mean. Songs like Barnyard Jamboree and Paper Cup. I mean, they're terrible. What are we, playing to a bunch of kindergartners? But, so those are the kind of differences that we had. And before I had been in the band, they had opened up for like Bruce Springsteen and stuff like that. So they, at one point, seemed like they were going somewhere. But since then, they just never improved themselves. They were satisfied at the level that they were. And instead of doing more stuff featuring their live electrical music, which was pretty good, they wanted to do these 3-hour acoustic shows at like church festivals and stuff like that. It was just not a way that, they figured, well, whatever to get the name out there. Yeah, but we're singing to like you know, old ladies and stuff like that. How that's not going to get us anywhere. So because of that musical difference is why we ended up parting ways. But uh, that's what it is. So I would like to put an actual band together because the new original music I want to put out is going to be me playing everything besides maybe a couple instruments. Uh, I might go to Fiverr and get people to do certain parts if I'm not satisfied with the way that I did them. But I'll put in the description when I do it who played what and what I played on. But I'm looking forward to that. And anyway, I just wanted to give the background of what exactly my musical experience uh, was. So that's basically it. And Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year. And I hope to see you all in the new year. In the new year, I'm going to start releasing more original content. And I hope that you guys will like it. So, cheers. And have a nice day. Have a nice rest of the year. And let's hope 2021 is going to be a little better.